Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
We have been given a gift by God today to usher in a new dynasty.
Now you get RFK Jr.
Don't you want a president who's going to make America healthy again?
You get Tulsi Gabbard.
Putting our country in a continual state of war.
You get Elon Musk and you get J.D. Vance.
A hell of a way to start the next 4 years.
The right-wing Avengers.
We have an army of digital soldiers.
Department of Defense under Donald Trump will achieve peace through strength.
Shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one.
Rescission of 78 Biden-era executive actions, executive orders, presidential memoranda, and others.
The golden age of America has most definitely begun.
Begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay.
They're getting the dirtbags off these streets.
There's one guy who can fix this shit, and it's Donald Trump.
What's sore, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
Guarding light in secret places, betrayed, broken, torn apart. Still the vow burns in the heart. Hidden voices, quiet prayer, scattered seeds still waiting there. In the shadows, time stood still, but the mission holds it always will. Nothing can stop what is coming. The fire, the thunder, the drumming. It's gonna be biblical, the final hour. Truth revealed in holy power. Through the decades they were called It's gonna be biblical, the final hour. Truth revealed in holy power. Nothing can stop what is written. The chains are broken, the veil is lifted. Welcome the revolution, hear the call. God's army rising, one and all. One and all. Can stop what is coming.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. My name is Josh. Welcome to the Repill Project's Daily Dose, live with you Monday through Friday. Hope everybody is doing well out there and having a fantastic start of their week. It is Tuesday, DEF CON night, so hopefully tonight you are going to join us for DEF CON 0 over on Badland Media channels. That's going to be a pretty interesting show. Hopefully we're not going to be talking about the Flynn stuff and all that. I don't want to talk about that anymore. I'm moving on with my life. I'm done with it. And I think all of you guys are as well. It's time to get on to more serious conversations than the psyops that are occurring within our movements and the people trying to uproot all the work that we've done. So here we are, August 4th, 2026. August is typically a hot month, and we're 4 days into the month and not much has happened. It's kind of like this nice calm that is occurring before something big drops. At least that's my thoughts. Now, for the second time in a week, I've seen the same timestamp occur on the White House page. And it gets me thinking that maybe something is about to happen. If you didn't see it, the White House put out this video yesterday. I'm pretty sure everybody's seen it. And
to fight.
Bring this over. Go ahead and watch it.
We come to this place for MAGA, to fight, and win. Because we need that, all of us. The indescribable feeling we get when we hear the national anthem. And stand together, stronger than ever before. Under this administration, we're going somewhere we've never been. We aren't just watching history, we're making it. Rebuilding our country better than ever. A country where we don't do heartbreak, we do victory. An America that is safer, more secure, more prosperous. And any setbacks that stand in our way simply makes the comeback that much sweeter. Welcome to the Golden Age.
All right, welcome to the Golden Age. I love that. You know, there's a few different things that I see with that video. No like hidden comms or anything like that. I really don't see that in this video per se, although it does have a very interesting timestamp, which we'll look at here in a minute. But what I think that video is trying to show us is that the steps being taken today by the Trump administration are foundational. It's not that what you see is what you get. It is foundational. It is building upon every single decision, policy, and move that is being made, that is building up to a large crescendo of the foundation of the golden age of making America great. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. I mean, think about this. You have $20 trillion of investment capital coming into the United States over the course of the next 10 years. Someone asked me the other day, they said, well, where's that money at? And I said, Abilene, Texas. It's going into the data centers. What do you think is funding the data centers? And people are like, yeah, but data centers are bad. And I'm like, are they? And people are like, well, yeah, it's like displacing eminent domain and people's land, and it's taking up water. I said, well, we have to look at the trade-off. And look, I'm not one of those people to be like, oh my God, we're sitting in the AI matrix. As well as we have to look at it that, hey, look, this could produce us in the AI matrix. But let's be very thoughtful of the war that is at hand right now. $20 trillion that is flowing into the United States of America over the course of the next 10 years. That's going to build out a massive biomedical field of new developing innovative technologies. We have artificial intelligence and data centers. We have 6G that is coming, and don't get me going on my thoughts on that. Do I think that it's harmful to humanity? I don't know. I haven't seen too much of the information on it. I can put you to various different studies from 2014 that talk about 4G and 3G and how that harms DNA. So I am skeptical on it, but I want you to look at it as a foundation of technology. And there's actually one of the things about 6G that I wanted to talk about. And this was actually a podcast that I watched the other day, and a lot of these companies, AT&T, Verizon, so forth, that are out there developing this 6G technology, one of the things they are doing is they are studying natural environmental patterns, or how various different electromagnetic waves operate. So we have a spectrum of the electromagnetic spectrum that occurs naturally on this planet, whether it's a Schumann resonance or whether it's ground level electromagnetic perturbations. And this happens from just plants giving off infrared energy or whatnot. And we measure these because they're so low level in decibels. And decibels are interesting because it's logarithmic, so it can go to negative, but they're looking at the waveform structure, basically ground level, so negative 60 decibel or lower electromagnetic waveforms, and seeing the various different patternization within the waveforms. Because one of the things that they're trying to do is they're trying to modify 6G wave signals to be more naturally oriented so that it doesn't have effects on biological life. And I think that that's actually a really good step in the right direction, because one of the things that they do understand is a 2014 Columbia University study put out by a guy by the name of Dr. Martin Blank. He looked at DNA and the effects of various different radiations on DNA. From this, he came to the conclusion that DNA is what we call a fractal antenna and an electromagnetic transducer. It sends and receives electromagnetic signals, and it has holographic and fractal-like properties. But what he did find is that there absolutely is damage from 3G and 4G bandwidths to DNA that is actually quite significant. So why is that important? Well, if you understand how Wi-Fi wireless communications operate within your house, this sits at the 5 to 2.4 gigahertz range. And the 2.4 gigahertz range basically has sub-channels that can go from 1 to 11, and typically everybody operates on channel 6. Now, what's interesting about that is that 2.4 gigahertz is right under that threshold of microwave wavelength. Same thing with that 5 gigahertz wavelength. But the interesting part about that is that if you go to your microwave and you put a cup of water into your microwave, whether you realize it or not, the microwave is not heating up the food. It's heating up the water molecules within the food, because 2.4 gigahertz, which is the frequency that a microwave actually operates off of, is the resonant oscillatory frequency of water as it oscillates and vibrates. And so what microwave radiation is doing in your microwave is actually increasingly oscillating the water molecules within food, producing friction, which heats it up. Now, you say, it's like, oh my God, well, our Wi-Fi is that same frequency? Yes, it absolutely is. And we have long durational exposure to that Wi-Fi radiation because it has very simplistic sine waveforms that it utilizes, which can be harmful or detrimental to our health over long periods of time. So one of the ideas of what they are doing right now with 6G is, because 6G, don't get me wrong, if you look at kind of how all of these processes work, one of the new technologies that came out within 5G technology that make 5G so much better than 4G was two different things. One called multiple input, multiple output, and another called beamforming technology. The reason that this was different is a 4G antenna could basically link up 500 to 1,000 to 10,000 people, but a 5G antenna can link up to about 1 million to 2 million people with all skyrocketing bandwidth allotted towards them, because they use directed beam technology. Directed beam technology, yes, is very similar to a directed energy weapon. It's basically a beam of electromagnetic energy that is sent to you. It is within the 30 decibel scale, which means that on a logarithmic scale, your microwave is magnitudes greater. That's 10 times, like the 9 greater in energy distribution than it is on that negative 30 decibel scale, which is therefore you look at it as less harmful. But this is why I said it's long durations of exposure over time is actually what produces this level of damage. I didn't expect to get into this conversation, but since I'm on it, I think we will talk about it because I think it's important for people to begin to understand where technology is heading and the various different developments and innovations that are coming about within technology. So when we start talking about 6G and what they're doing, 6G is like 5G on crack, but the signal strength that is utilized is actually relatively weaker than the 5G bandwidth. They're just utilizing new technology mechanisms to do that. Like one of the big breakthroughs in satellite technology, and this is why Elon is able to give you, a half of a gigabyte of data download bandwidth from Starlink that's up in space, is utilizing beamforming technology to modify that beam in a certain geometric structure. And this is what actually happens is it condenses the information that is within the carrier wave of that beam and allows it to stay more kind of structured within that beam instead of dispersing out through the inverse square law. So when we go into 6G, they're utilizing the same beamforming technology. They're using multiple input, multiple output, but technology has definitely increased. And so your capacity for MIMO has definitely expanded greatly. But the beamforming technology is the interesting part because what they're doing is they're trying to replicate natural patternizations at natural ground levels to replicate this. They begin to realize that electromagnetic radiation does have an effect on life. It does have an effect on the environment. It does have an effect on human beings. And what they want to do is start developing a technological infrastructure that's more conducive with biological systems. And so I want to put that out there because these are the types of things that we're going to see developed over the course of the next 5 to 10 years that are actually going to be more beneficial to us. And maybe it was a deviation of capitalism that brought us this way to get that shit out as fast as humanly possible without the concern for safety and health. But now they are reverting back because we have the technological infrastructure in place to actually go out there and begin developing this and redo the infrastructure that we already built out to be more conducive to biological life and to benefit biological life instead of ruin and destroy it. So I want to put that out there because I think that that's a very important deviation to understand that yeah, there's massive data centers going out there. I have heard about the water problem. I've researched a little bit. The one thing I do know about these data centers is that they are closed loop cooling systems. These are the same types of systems that I worked on in the United States Navy. Now, typically the water utilization from these closed loop systems is typically self-contained. The excess cooling water after certain periods of time is ejected downstream, but the burn off rate of that water doesn't make sense to what we're actually seeing. So my thoughts on a lot of the people complaining about the water and the various different groundwaters in the aquifers and the rivers drying up or being lower than normal is a cause of environmental conditions and potentially even Chinese farmland, Bill Gates farmland, siphoning this stuff off. I don't know. I haven't researched it too much. It is a concern to me. Do I get concerned when I hear about massive data centers being built around the country? Yes, but I understand the trade-off. The trade-off is this. China's doing the same thing. If China attains artificial intelligence superiority before the United States, artificial superintelligence before the United States, we're done. There is no future for us. It doesn't matter how many data centers we have that are on people's lands that got taken away through eminent domain through national security clauses. It doesn't matter because we are done. We all become slaves to the Chinese or move out of our country because it becomes Chinese farmland. That's the severity of the situation and why I think Donald Trump is moving forth with kind of a no holds barred type of scenario of unrestricted warfare when he's looking at the AI infrastructure that's being built out. But when we start to look at the AI infrastructure that's being built out, we start to look at the biomedical infrastructure that's being built out. And don't get me wrong, I don't want really anything to do with the biomedical infrastructure unless it's going to be very, very beneficial and conducive to humanity. I'm not about mRNA technology. I'm not about the genetic modification shit, the alpha genome. I am completely against this. But what I do want you to see is that it does produce new industries, new jobs, and it does increase GDP, and it does make the United States of America much wealthier over time. So what we have to understand is that this money is already being invested in the United States of America. It already is building out new infrastructure on top of our 100-year-old infrastructure that we've had for quite a while. Now, we are one of the only countries in the world that still exists with 1940s and 1950s critical infrastructure still in place. And so it's very, very paramount that we get that replaced as fast as humanly possible. And one of the things that Trump is talking about here with the golden age is rebuilding out this new infrastructure to substantiate the technological innovation and development that's going to happen over the course of the next 10 to 20 years. I wrote a blog post about this called the 500-year leap. And the idea behind the 500-year leap is very, very simple. We can't even fathom the technological innovation that is going to come about over the course of the next 20 years. It is going to be like skyrocketing our technology that we have in current date to the age of Star Trek. So we are going to have a 500-year leap in technology within a mere 20 years. Why is that going to be possible? It's going to be possible because of the data centers, because of artificial intelligence and the attainment of artificial superintelligence, because this thing is a mathematical wizard. What do we mean by that? It's not about asking it questions or it thinking about thinking for yourself or it doing your work for you or taking over the economic system. Put all of that to the side right now. The one thing that artificial intelligence is incredibly good at is math. Math like you couldn't even believe. Math that would take a human being at the top level of the mathematics communities years or decades to do, artificial intelligence can do within mere seconds or minutes. That is a huge milestone in technological progression for humanity. Now, what does that do? That brings about scientific inquiry, scientific breakthroughs, and innovation. It comes up with new different types of engineering designs and architectures. It allows engineers to come in and begin advancing in fields that were maybe forgotten about a long time ago. One of the most important things that comes about from all of this is the Genesis mission that Donald Trump has set up. And this is where the golden age is actually going to be birthed from. The Genesis mission is an idea of the Trump administration through executive order of utilizing government-based artificial intelligences that are basically having an aggregation of scientific research over the course of the last 50 years pumped into it. So think about all the national laboratories and all the research and peer-reviewed papers that have happened through the national laboratories, through the National Institutes of Health, through various different patents and corporations and scientists and through the university system. All these papers that maybe had correlative factors that resolved or solved different things within our past that we just miss because we're human beings and we make mistakes. Now that is going to be all funneled into an artificial intelligence, and 40,000 American scientists are going to have the capability to go in there and begin analyzing this data as AI begins to map out the various different patterns and relationships. These scientists are going to be able to ask and prompt the correct questions to bring about an innovative nature in various different scientific breakthroughs. Within the next 5 years, I bet you we're going to have more scientific breakthroughs than we've had probably in the last 50. That is freaking astronomical. What's that going to do to our society? It is going to restructure our society to an economic powerhouse as we become the innovators once again for planet Earth. Now, take that into account with the economic infrastructure that Donald Trump is bringing up. $20 trillion that is being loaned to the United States of America, that they're basically partitioning out the various different companies to build this infrastructure through grants and stuff like that. Those companies and countries that are donating that money, they're not donating it, sorry, they are investing it. They're investing it with the idea of a minimum of a 3 to 5x ROI, return on an investment. And so if you have $20 trillion being invested, which they want a minimum of $100 trillion returned to them over the course of the next 20 years, what does that mean for the GDP? The GDP is going to be at a 2 to 3x variable of that. That's an increase in GDP. Currently, the U.S. GDP is approximately about $105 trillion. We're about to 4 to 5x that over the course of the next 10 years. What does that do to the American people? It increases quality of life. It increases the average amount of money that people are making per their jobs. It increases the job market drastically. I know a lot of people out there are scared about artificial intelligence coming in and taking over their jobs. That is a long ways away. That is at least 10 years away before you start seeing artificial intelligence coming in and starting to replace blue collar and white collar jobs. The things that artificial intelligence are going to come in and robotics will do is various different types of dangerous manual labor, various different types of manufacturing and shipping, these types of things that have been already replaced in the past by robotics. And basically it's going to make it smarter, faster, and more efficient. And it will be managed by human beings. Now, is that a concern? No, because we're going to have a $300-400 trillion increase in our global GDP, there's going to be new market dynamics that begin to emerge up, things that we can't even think about right now that begin to emerge within the market that are going to produce new jobs that are human specific. They're going to produce innovative natures like you've never seen before. People going out there and becoming their own people and their own business and capitalizing on all the opportunities and prosperity that's occurring. This is what I believe, and this is what I see, and this is what has been historically shown to happen over time. The problem is that throughout history, that oh my God, you're making my head hurt. Historically, what's happened though is that people were not well informed that this was occurring, that this was happening. Today, you are. So, are we going to see a golden age? I think we are in the midst of something absolutely amazing. And what we are seeing happening on the geopolitical level, the geoeconomic level, of what Donald Trump is doing right now, declassification, disclosure, all of these parts are pieces of the puzzle that, when put together, formulate a new global dynamic amongst the various different nations of the earth that eradicate the central banking British London banking system, the Rothschild credit and debt system. That shit goes away. That it cannot exist of where we are heading, because as Elon Musk has said, in 5 years, you will not look at money the same way. Money will not be the same as it is today. This is because of various different types of blockchain integration, not CBDC, central bank digital currencies, but stable coins, and how stable coins are going to be allocated into federal spending. How does it get allocated? Through 25 to 50 year different types of bonds, gold and Bitcoin, to appreciating assets over time, which means that the interest paid on those bonds can pay for itself within a matter of a few years as those assets begin to appreciate, which means that there's no long-term debt. And since they're appreciating assets, the debt aspect of that, taking it out for stable coins to go into circulation, it becomes negligible because of the appreciation of the various underlying assets, if that makes sense. Incorporate that with the sovereign wealth fund and everything else that's coming about, and within 5 to 10 years, we are going to have a radical change in how people view the economic infrastructure in the global economy, because things are being set up right now for the success of the United States of America and the United States people. That was a mouthful. That was awesome, though. I'm making my head hurt. I'm sorry I made your head hurt. I apologize. But that post did come with a timestamp. And that timestamp is this one right here. 2138. It's the second time in the last week and a half that I've seen this. Battle stations ready. Where we go when we go all. We are with you where we go when we go all. I love this because it's indicating to me that, hey, look, things are calm right now. Things are a little chaotic on the global scene. Things are calm in our country. We haven't heard much. Stuff happened. Todd Blanche just got sworn in as the Attorney General today. I think that was the one telltale sign of shit is about to hit the proverbial fan. This is the one thing that I think they were waiting for specifically. Or sorry, Jay Clayton. Sorry, I got to back up because it wasn't Todd Blanche. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Jay Clayton was sworn in as Director of National Intelligence today. So Jay Clayton has officially been sworn in by the new Director of National Intelligence by Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent in the Oval Office. He takes the role over after Tulsi Gabbard stepped down in June. So this is one of the markers that we've been waiting for. Jay Clayton coming in. What is Jay Clayton going to do? I think Jay Clayton is going to go out there and begin looking at the deep state financial aspect of how these things got funded. This is where the NGO perspective begins to come in. Odie and I doing investigations on various different intelligence agencies, specifically the CIA, and how they allocate money through various different black programs and proxy organizations, NGOs, contractors, and how that money begins to flow through dark money channels. I think that is why Jay Clayton is being brought into this role, and I think those are a few different reports that we're going to see through the investigations that he does. Now, in the context of Joe DeGeneva and what he's doing down in Fort Pierce, Florida, with the grand jury that's happening out there that's looking into the 2016 Intelligence Community Assessment, as well as Russiagate, FISAgate, all of that. And there's a separate grand jury that's looking into the Mar-a-Lago raid. Jack Smith, we know that that's going on as well. That's under Jason Redding Quiones, the U.S. attorney down there in the Southern District of Florida. I think what they are waiting for is the acting Attorney General Todd Blanche to be confirmed as the Attorney General. Now, why do I think that? I think that they already have a date set in mind of when indictments are going to come about and accountability is going to begin to flow out and happen, and when new declassification of information that they had to declassify for these grand juries is going to begin flowing out. The reason they are holding it off right now is because Todd Blanche is acting Attorney General and not fully within his position, which could bring up some legal issues or legal constraints when these indictments are actually signed by the interim Attorney General. Once he becomes Attorney General proper, once it is certified by Senate and he is sworn in, I think we're going to start hitting the ground running. Why? Joe DeGeneva, the special assistant to the Attorney General, who is down in Fort Pierce, Florida. He is running the investigation into what we call the Grand Criminal Conspiracy. This was being ran by another U.S. attorney down there in Fort Pierce, Florida, and they were unable to bring it all together. And the reason is because the Grand Criminal Conspiracy is so damn large. He takes his lion manes along with his red pill. Actually, yeah, I got it in my coffee. But the Grand Criminal Conspiracy was so damn large that it was becoming incredibly difficult to look at singular aspects of prosecution when you have this wide spectrum, very broad spectrum criminality that occurred over the course of a decade. So what Joe DeGeneva has done is he has broke this down into smaller, different pieces and components. And he's going in there and he's looking at various different actors and the crimes that they committed or potentially committed, and having the grand jury look at the evidence behind each one of those specifically, and the correlative factors that relate to that, instead of one big grand criminal conspiracy. Why is that interesting? About 3 weeks ago, Joe DeGeneva traveled to Washington, D.C., and he met with acting Attorney General Todd Blanche. Now, that's not odd. That's not rare. Very, very common for that to happen. What was rare was the other person who was at the meeting. The other person at the meeting was FBI Director Kash Patel. There is zero reason in the world for FBI Director Kash Patel to be at that meeting with Special Assistant to Todd Blanche, Joe DeGeneva, who's running a grand jury in Fort Pierce, Florida, and the acting Attorney General, unless there is some need for the FBI involvement within grand juries' sealed indictments becoming unsealed. Hence why I say they are just waiting for Todd Blanche to get confirmed, and then the party begins. I think that we're going to see this. He just passed committee today, so you could potentially even see a Senate vote within the course of the next 7 days. I know Senate is going on vacation here in the next 6 days, so I think that it's actually going to happen before that time. So we could see by the second week of August is kind of my prediction on all of this. We could see fireworks begin to occur. Now, one of the things that people scrutinize Todd Blanche on is the Epstein files. And I've been talking about this a lot, specifically if you go back to the beginning of the year. I said that there was multiple different variations of the thought process behind the Epstein files. Number one is good compromise that you can utilize to control positions of power, especially on the other political side. You're not going to just put out there into the public and start to dismantle those systems. No, you're going to control them with that information. Compromise benefits Donald Trump when it's in his possession. So I think that that's one variable at play right there. Number two variable is there was redacted names that appeared as if the Trump administration was protecting certain people within the Epstein files. Rightfully so. And I think that they were doing it intentionally. Well, why? More recently, what happened is Judge Emmett Sullivan, the same judge who was prosecuting General Flynn back in 2018, 2019, issued a demand from the DOJ to hand over all of the names that were redacted from the Epstein files unredacted. And then he would be the deciding factor as an aspect of national security of whether those names should be released. And Judge Emmett Sullivan absolutely has that power and authority. Well, what happened a week and a half ago? The DOJ sent all of the unredacted names over to Judge Emmett Sullivan for his team's review. Does that mean that we could see this information begin to come out through Judge Emmett Sullivan? Now, why is that important? Number one, when you start to talk about the global power structure, the multi-headed hydra, the various different factions that control this world, they control business, industry, manufacturing, processing, supply chain. These are very, very powerful elite structures. They exist, and there's nothing we're going to do to change that right now in the world except for get them on your side and help use their resources to develop the world that we're moving into. And Donald Trump understands this better than anyone. Now, if Donald Trump directly came out and threw those people under the bus and put those people out there, you begin to see that whole infrastructure of factionality collapse. People that have aligned towards Donald Trump after Butler, Pennsylvania, and what I mean is we've talked about this discussion multiple different times before, called the multi-headed hydra. If you want a perspective of how the world works, is that think about a board of directors. That's the multi-headed hydra. Various different heads of the hydra that have their own factions and their own ideologies and their own agendas. And what's happened over the last 100 years is that one or two of these factions, what we call the satanic cabal, the globalist bankers, have centralized much of the power into their hands, of which these other factions just latched on to that power structure as an ancillary mechanism to their agenda. Well, Donald Trump has dismantled much of that infrastructure of that globalist agenda, the New World Order, the one world government, the commune-fascist New World Order, right? So with that being said, people began to fall off of the factionalization that were centralized under that power structure. Where did they start going? They started going towards President Trump and aligning towards President Trump. Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates. This is why you see that Pfizer coming over, started aligning towards Donald Trump. They're not necessarily opportunists. They just don't want to get prosecuted, and they can understand that they have a system that can implement in and actually help to bring about Donald Trump's agenda. So you have these kind of middle-level managers that are shifting positions and transitioning over the Donald Trump side. He understands this. He knows that most of these people are fucking evil. He understands what their agendas are. But right now he's utilizing their resources as a means to bring about his agenda, which is America first. Now, when we go back into this, if Donald Trump directly came out and started releasing those people's names and putting those people, throwing those people under the bus, and their whole industries began to collapse because of that, all those other factions that are centered around Donald Trump, they begin to peel off. They go, hey, I don't want him to do that to me. I'm out of here. Let's go rally behind that other power structure that was being dismantled, and we're going to align towards their agenda. And then they turn on Donald Trump once again. He can't have that optics out there. So what happens? They conceal the names. Judge Emmett Sullivan comes out and says, hey, I want those names. You hand it over to Judge Emmett Sullivan, who's a Democrat-appointed judge, Obama-appointed judge, and he releases those names. It's the same idea behind why did it take an act of Congress through a partisan bill that Donald Trump signed through all the psychological warfare we saw to just get the Epstein files out there? It's all part of the same mechanism. Is you can't take that factionality that you have surrounding you that is bringing in the infrastructure, the business, the manufacturing, the logistics, the processing. You can't throw that under the bus immediately. And you can't be the blame for throwing that under the bus because the whole system begins to fall apart. So instead, what you do is you do it through a proxy mechanism. You have the Democrats, their old alignments, begin to throw them under the bus, and you allow them to become the mechanism of which their names come out there. Because then it's just Donald Trump's like, I told you, nothing there. So I hope that makes sense. So what we are potentially seeing right now is that this is going to come out relatively fast. I also think that there might be another play to this. A few weeks ago, a rumor started circulating on social media that Benjamin Netanyahu was threatening to release the Epstein files because of the Iran war and Donald Trump rug pulling him and all this stuff. Who knows? Maybe that's KFAB. I don't know. Maybe it's all KFAB. Now, do I think it is? No. Do I think that the Mossad has it? I think that someone has this information. And we have here from the Danny Jones podcast, we talked about this yesterday, but I wanted to bring this up and talk about it tonight. Javal Aviv. This is a former Mossad assassin. And I want you to listen to what he says here. We're going to listen to it. I know we listened to this yesterday. We'll listen to it again.
That evidence, you know, we got a bunch of emails and stuff, and there was lots of redactions. They said they were only going to redact the victims, but they redacted way more than just the victims. They redacted like big names of like sheiks and oil executives and all.
Yes, you know. yes.
It's very interesting the people that they didn't redact and the people they did redact, if you really like read between the lines and look at it. But
of course,
like that's not the real evidence. The real evidence is on the hard drives, because there's survivors, there's girls that were there that testified that he had rooms as big as this room right now that were filled with servers and computers and monitors that were recording all that footage that he had, not only on the island, but in New York, the Zora Ranch, everywhere.
He had a plane,
camera.
The plane was rigged and everywhere.
Where's all that footage?
I can't tell you.
Really?
Yeah.
Can I guess?
No, please don't. Not now. Don't guess now. So that's why I said the days.
Let me ask you this:
the day it will come out is important. It has to be the right time, the right day.
Let me ask you this:
the day that it comes out will be important. It has to be the right time, the right day. That sounds like there's an operation operating in the background, waiting for the right timing to release that information. Just putting that out there, because I think that that's important. So for people like, the Epstein file is enough, it's not over yet. It's not over yet. And I think I just gave a really good breakdown on why this administration is handling that information the way they are handling it. Because you have a massive amount of power brokers globally who are probably implicated, whether it's in the money laundering channels, whether it's in the biomedical research aspects of Epstein, the stealing of scientific secrets from various different national laboratories, the Department of Defense and various different intelligence agencies' involvement. I mean, you can go on and on. There's massive criminality and implications for the release of that information and the names that become implicated under Jeffrey Epstein. Now, Donald Trump does not want to disrupt the global system as it is, as he's redefining it and rebuilding the foundation of America within it. But he's A-okay with the Democrats going out there and completely imploding to bring it all about. And this is exactly what we're seeing. All right. Now, that's the Epstein aspect of things. Now we have Fauci. And I want you to see this as well. A few things. I had someone message me, or like commented on my post today, and they said, but nothing's happening. Come the fuck on, people. You have multiple grand juries across the country. You have the ODNI putting out a report on election interference and election influence. You have the DNI Gabbard that came out and discussed the investigation being opened up into 72 various different biolabs within Ukraine. You have gain-of-function research that is being put out into the public purview so people could understand what it was, that was being funded by NIAID Anthony Fauci through EcoHealth Alliance and the Wuhan Institute of Virology. You have new information coming out of various different generals in our military that are cooperating and collaborating with China on technological development and technological scale. That relates directly back to the SAP programs and Hillary Clinton. You have grand jury subpoenaing Neville Roy Singham, a massive tech billionaire who's been funding the No Kings protests, the Summer of Love 2.0, the 2018 midterms, the Democrats and the liberals at every point and every juncture. He was one of the primary financiers that was pulling in USAID money overseas and then funneling that money back around into proxy corporations or private corporations that would spoof the names of Democrat donors and then fund that into ActBlue. He's been subpoenaed. You have the grand jury, Joe DeGeneva, down in Fort Pierce, Florida, 2 different grand juries. You have one run by Jason Rennie-Quiones. That's Mar-a-Lago. That's Jack Smith. That's weaponization of the Biden administration against President Donald Trump. Joe DeGeneva out there investigating FISA-gate, Russia-gate. You have the 2016 Intelligence Community Assessment, the Steele dossier, Hillary Clinton, the DNC. You have the Senate opening up investigations back into Hillary Clinton's pay-for-play through the Clinton Foundation. All of this stuff is happening right now. And people are like, yeah, but I want to see the rest. Like, understand that Donald Trump does not have dictatorial powers. Donald Trump is the president, and he can only say, hey, Attorney General, I want you to investigate this. And then the DOJ has to go out there. The DOJ is 250,000 people. They got to go out there and they have to get all the evidence. They have to review all the evidence. They have to interview all the people. They have to form grand juries. The grand jury's got to get security clearances to look at the classified information before it gets declassified. This stuff takes a little bit of time to actually come to fruition. And I think that one of the biggest delays is that Donald Trump is waiting for the big crescendo for that to happen. I think, quite honestly, and this is my honest to God's opinion, that what we just saw with Donald Trump coming out with the ODNI report, speaking particularly upon China's interference and influence operations, and he came out and specifically said, that was China then, that is not China now. That's really important to note, because we do know that China gave the Trump administration and the Trump DOJ some of that information pertaining to the stolen voter, private voter information. But it's important because it's a predicate, legal predicate, to declare the national emergency on election integrity and infrastructure, which gets Donald Trump the win in the midterm elections, potentially even a red wave that also has the potential to be the end of the Democrat Party or the implosion event that people start leaving the Democratic Party in the first place. Now, why is that important? Because it's after that point that you want the indictments to come about. Because if the Democrat Party is beginning to fall apart and fail and people are leaving it and people are like, oh my God, it's bankrupted, it's $14 million on hand, $18 million in debt, and after the midterm elections, that number is going to be far, far greater. The DNC headquarters is put up as collateral, and they're going to lose the midterm elections, and people are going to be like, well, we're going to go to the Democrat Socialist Party, and you're going to have 70% of their voters are saying, I don't want to go socialist. What I'm going to do? Well, that's why you have a third party rising up. But it's at that point that then you come out and you show the weaponization, you show the more declassification, that show the criminality, the fraud, the corruption, and the treason that occurred over the last 10 years, because then it becomes more believable even for that voter base. You can't tell the people, you have to show them. And if their party is in ruins and failing and absolutely crumbling, and they have a legitimate election with a legitimate election infrastructure in place, and they lose massively to a red wave, that shows to them that, hey, maybe the potential possibility that the elections were rigged, that they were stealing elections, is actually true and correct. And now more information comes out about that, reinforcing those thoughts that happen within the minds of that voting base. This is what needs to happen. See, the biggest, I think, assumption that you and I make, or that a lot of people in the patriot community make, is we have it all. The military has it all. Let's just prosecute these son of a bitches. Yeah, but then you got 100 million other people in this country that are going, what the hell? That's weaponization of the military. Then a civil war comes about. You have a revolt that comes about. You have to inform all the masses. Remember, the one key point that Q always talked about, the precipice. You have to come to the precipice. Tangents, out of here. There's no tangents. People are following along. You got to understand what's happening on a full scope scenario here, brother. That's why we bring about a foundational background upon everything that I'm saying. Before I go to the next part, I'm going to give you a foundation of what I'm talking about. And this is what I'm talking about, is you have to go into the precipice. The precipice idea is that the majority of the people understand what happened, what is happening, and what's going to happen. That only comes about through various parts of declassification, disclosure, and from the media being true and honest, the alternative media reporting the correct information, and through people seeing with their own eyes as it begins to unfold. All right. Today, Rand Paul submitted his contempt resolution for Anthony Fauci. I said, it's a sad day. It's sad that this man committed crimes against humanity, and the most we can do at the moment is hold him in contempt. I think that that's a very, very true statement. Representative Nancy Mace, no more foreign-born members of Congress and federal judges. We've introduced a constitutional amendment to make it happen. Let's get that shit passed. You need to call your congressman, and we need to get that shit passed. No more foreign-born members of Congress. Now, why is that important? Because what are we seeing right now? Senator Ted Cruz believes that Mamdani is actually planning on running for Chuck Schumer's Senate seat. Imagine Mamdani being the next senator from New York. What do you have here? The woman running for the governor of Wisconsin is a communist. She's from Korea. We don't know if north or south, but she's from Korea, and she's winning. Oh, what else do we have? We have Abdul Al-Sayed. This is in Michigan, the Senate race for Democrat primaries. He is ahead right now above Hallie Stevens, 51.7%. Why is that crazy? I think that this is the first election for a primary that I'm actually voting for another Democrat to actually beat somebody, because this is a pro-Sharia law, radical Islamic terrorist. He's not a radical Islamic terrorist, but you understand the ideology behind various different candidates, communists to the Islamicists. That is dangerous for our country, and these people should not in any way, shape, or form being elected into office, especially foreign-borns being elected into our office. Today, an armed suspect identified as Janine John Tail, 38, was arrested at Trump National Golf Course after allegedly monitoring security preparations ahead of President Trump's visits. Police say they later recovered an illegally modified AR-style rifle, body armor, high-capacity magazines, ammunitions, notebook containing concerning statements from his home. In other words, it was a potential attempted assassination attempt that was going to occur on President Trump's life in his visit to LA, and it got thwarted. It makes sense with everything going on in California right now with the Trump administration, the various investigations into Gavin Newsom and all of the crime and corruption that was occurring within the Medicaid, Medicare, SNAP, and welfare systems. I can understand why they would want to take him out, but another one thwarted. Tucker Carlson says the U.S. and Israel governments knowingly leveraged mass migration as a political weapon against the government they opposed over its anti-Israel stance. I don't know if it's necessarily anti-Israel stance, but they definitely did prefer one government over another. Congress voted a week and a half ago to recognize Morocco as the owner or the heir to Ceuta, Spain. And I said this last week, the night that it happened. I said, this is not NGOs. This isn't a terrorist organization. This is Morocco who is doing this. And it's being perpetuated and funded in the backdrop by the United States and probably Israel. Yeah. But Tucker Carlson, I think, is right there. But I don't think it's because they're being anti-Israel. They're being anti-NATO. They're being anti-American globally. And they do have interests that don't align with Israel, but they have more interests that don't align with the United States of America. And they've been a thorn in Donald Trump's back. So I think that this is one of those moves for exactly that. Now, you probably heard the fake news over the last few days. The U.S. has nearly 80% of the key missiles interceptors in Iran, has used nearly 80% of its key missile interceptors in the Iran war. Top commanders warn stockpiles dangerously low. That's fake news. That's not true. No top commanders said that. You had the European commander, the Supreme Commander of the European Command, come out and state that they need more Navy ships or they're going to have to revert and start protecting the American homeland. But he's a general. He's not Fifth Fleet. He's not CENTCOM. He has no authority to say that. So I don't know if that guy's going to get pulled and maybe fired. But this information is another one of those fake leaks that is absolutely inaccurate. And how do we know it's inaccurate? Watch the bombs begin to drop over the course of the next few weeks if shit doesn't happen over the 24-hour deadline that President Trump has talked about. I found this article interesting. Diane Poshenko She put this article out the other day, and this is something that I've been kind of verbal about more recently. She said Zelensky appointed Umerov as head of foreign intelligence services. Umerov is a U.S. citizen. He owns 8 real estate properties, total amount $8.5 million, 4 villas in Miami, 3 apartments in Florida, 1 apartment in New York. Where did the money come from? Audit Ukraine. And I've laid it all out. Zelensky and his administration were blackmailing the Biden administration for hundreds of billions of dollars that was disguised as aid. What was the blackmail? Go to the Trump phone call with President Zelensky in 2019, the perfect phone call. I would like to find out what happened with this whole situation with Ukraine. They say CrowdStrike. I guess you have one of your wealthy people, the server. They say Ukraine has it. There are a lot of things that went on, the whole situation. I'd like to have my attorney general call you or your people, and I would like to get to the bottom of it. They say a lot of it started with Ukraine. Whatever you can do, it's very important that you do it if that's possible. Ukraine held the keys to the 2016 conspiracy within a CrowdStrike server that was located in Ukraine. Trump asked for it back. He never received it. Instead, Zelensky helped those involved with the 2020 election fraud that we're all now finding out, undermining Trump, and then blackmailed the Biden administration with the laptop. That's why Trump and Zelensky don't get along. Tucker Carlson recently said the Iran war cannot be won. No shit. Not meant to be won. War is not meant to be won. There are no winners in wars anymore in this day and age. There are only beneficiaries of temporary chaos. That's the important aspect of what is happening right now. Who benefits, who does not. Who economically gets hurt and falls to attrition, and who strengthens themselves and shows the process of long endurance. That's what's happening right now, and that is warfare in the modern day when we start talking about kinetic warfare. The Dow surged 900 points. The S&P 500 closes above 7,700 for the first time in a Wall Street rally. Well, that's interesting. James Rickards today, U.S. manufacturing is expanding, but much of that growth is being driven by trillions poured into massive AI data centers. Remember we said $20 trillion in the massive AI data centers? Well, that's what's bringing about U.S. manufacturing and those numbers skyrocketing up. That boosts GDP and creates jobs today. The real question is whether it delivers lasting productivity or becomes America's version of China's ghost cities. I don't think it's going to go that route, Mr. Rickards, but good assessment. But what else is going on right now? Because there's a few different things happening. Someone put in there. And I'm going to squirrel this because this is a $10 super chat that came in from SOAR 111. Josh, what are your thoughts on DeSantis? DeSantis endorsed one government candidate and President Donald J. Trump endorsed another. Confused with the information warfare. All right. My thoughts on DeSantis is that whatever they're doing is part of their plan. DeSantis, I believe, is working with Trump. That's why Trump's talking about appointing DeSantis to a cabinet position, most likely head of DHS. Because don't think Mark Wayne Mullen is going to be there very much longer. Now, why would DeSantis go out there and endorse one candidate and Trump endorses another? Because maybe DeSantis has a relationship with that person and Trump has a relationship with the other person. One thing that I can tell you is absolutely respected among President Trump and other politicians is their ability to choose and decide for themselves. That is very highly respected in Washington, D.C. You know, Donald Trump gets mad at a lot of people for typically not playing party line politics, but he only does that when it really, really matters. Now, other than that, I think he's okay with the criticism. I think he's okay with his people that he likes, maybe personal friends of his that he golfs with, or he's going to point to his cabinet, endorsing other people that maybe he doesn't agree with, or maybe that he doesn't align with fully. That would be my thoughts. All right, back to the economic side. The Fed is being dragged into Japan's currency crisis. I've been talking about the yen carry trade, the Japanese bond market. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent called the Fed's FEMA repo facility to be upsized. That obscure pandemic-era tool lets foreign central banks temporarily swap their U.S. treasuries for dollars without dumping the bonds on the open market. Japan holds over $1.1 trillion in treasuries, the largest foreign stockpile, but the yen just hit a 40-year low. Washington and Tokyo already staged a rare joint intervention last week. Now Bissett wants a bigger Fed backstop ready so Japan can keep defending the yen without lighting a fire under the U.S. bond yields. This goes way beyond helping its ally. Persistent yen weakens, threatens global capital flows, treasury market stability, and financial conditions everywhere. Once the weak currency in Tokyo can force policy decisions in Washington overnight. So the quiet expansion of the Fed's balance sheet into currency defense is starting to look inevitable. And he's spot on right here. And so China's watching this very, very closely. China will be affected with this as well. And I think that that's an important factor here because the Japanese bond market isn't just propped up by U.S. bonds as the core foundation of it, is that the yen carry trade props up probably 40 to 60% of the global tech markets and crypto markets, which means that if the yen carry trade collapses due to the Japanese bond market increasing rates, skyrocketing their rates, or they have to sell off U.S. treasuries, you're going to see a capitulation within the tech stocks, and you're going to see a massive decline within the market dynamic that potentially could lead to a black swan style event. That is very, very real and could happen any day. This is what people are talking about with the AI bubble. The AI bubble is nothing more than the idea that the majority of the money that sits within the global tech stocks and every single stock market is credit. It's not real money. It's borrowed money. It's borrowed money on margin. It's loaned money. It's money borrowed through various different trading mechanisms that are utilized to borrow very, very cheap money. But I would say 40 to 60% of the current market is borrowed money, credit, fake money, derivative money. It doesn't actually exist. And if that money somehow gets a call on it, people have to pay interest on it. If that interest rises up to that point of default or collateralization, they have to sell off. If they sell off, the markets crash. I think that that's a very possible scenario we could see over the course of the next year, year and a half. All right. I was going to get, it's the same stories. We got to get going here soon. I got to get over the DEF CON here in the next 10, 15 minutes. But there's a few things I did want to talk about. I wanted to talk about artificial intelligence. But I also wanted to talk about UAP and UFOs because I think that we're about to see some massive information come on about that over the course of the next week or so. One of the things I do want to go out here and do is check this out. The day that I actually watch it, nothing happens. That's of course. So AI. I talked about this last week. This is about 4 minutes long. I'm not going to play the whole thing. This was on Bannon, but it's a really good interpretation. I'm just going to play a few minutes of it. Listen to this.
Yeah, this is oftentimes compared to the nuclear age, right? Artificial intelligence is the new nuclear bomb. And it is, I think, as far as the magnitude of the technology's power, I think it's an accurate comparison, but there's a lot of differences. One of the big differences is that nuclear physicists understood, for the most part, exactly, down to the atomic scale, exactly what was happening in a nuclear explosion or in a reactor. In the case of artificial intelligence, they know, of course, how they build the scaffolding of the brain, right? The architecture of the AI. They know basically how it works when you train the AI. But once you get to the point that you've built the architecture, you've built the brain, right? A fresh digital brain, and you've fed it all of this data, and it begins to learn. Its weights are shifted, and it begins to learn. When the end of that process comes, you have completed the training run and the post-training run, then you have a black box. No one is really sure what's happening inside. Even the simpler models from back in 2023 and before, no one is really sure what's happening in there. That's why you have armies of researchers who, after the AI has been released, go in and they ask it questions, they test it, they do all these different things to find out what they have just created. They really don't know. So,
okay. He's right. It's one of the biggest problems in artificial intelligence right now with the scaling mechanisms that are being utilized is that when we start talking about the intermatrices of the neural nets and how they operate, the functionality that is occurring between all of the architecture and scaffolding that we put in place, we have no idea how it is happening. People have proposed various different mathematical models. I have my own perspective of how that's operating, but people that are the top levels of all these AI companies don't know. And that scares the living shit out of them, because then you get things like this. The UK AI Security Institute found Anthropic's Mythos 5 and OpenAI's ChatGPT 5.6 Soul attempted to hack third parties during safety testing last month. The model socially engineered maintainers and created fake GitHub identities. They actually escaped from the sandbox environment and hacked third-party companies. Skynet is fucking active. That's some scary shit. All right. This is where this gets cool and interesting, because I've been saying this for a long time. Why didn't we go back to the moon? Why is it every moon mission that we sent up there in the Apollo years was all military people? Scientists issue warning after spotting more than 20 giant UFOs racing across the moon. That sounds crazy, doesn't it? No. Astronomers studying the moon claim to have captured possible evidence of technologically advanced non-human civilizations. Scientists at Ukraine's main astronomical observatory reported observing more than 20 identified objects moving near and across the moon over several months in 2025. Some of the disc-shaped objects were estimated between 15 and 25 miles across. In a new study that has not been peer-reviewed, the team said they identified two categories of UFOs: atmospheric objects that appeared stationary and continental objects that appeared to move across the moon's surface. The objects also appeared to display unusual changes in brightness and rotation. The researchers argued that those patterns could indicate structured technological behavior, raised the possibility that the objects originated from a hidden base on the moon. What did I say? They're not alien. They're ours. I'm just going to leave that right there. They're ours. 99% positive. They're ours. And that's what we're leading up to. I believe that that's what this AI revolution is going to bring about, is that stuff is going to come about. Oh, yeah, look at this. From that. And that in 20 to 25 years, we could be that Star Trek civilization. Today, Robert Bigelow, UFO, he said the UFO gatekeepers have custody of the goods and more information as they are diamonds in a coal mine. He came out today and discussed with George Knapp how he briefed Donald Trump on the UFO scenario, and that the speech that apparently Donald Trump has about UFOs was written by Bob Bigelow. And Bob Bigelow was waiting for that speech to happen. Dr. Phil recently said, there's an appetite, but not an urgency. That may be our friend right now. He said, I made some observations of the White House, and one of the things I said was that we need a big event. We'll need pacing to put this out to give people an opportunity to process. Big event, Trump press conference announcing we're not alone and that we recovered non-human craft and bodies. I don't know when this is going to happen. I have my theories. One of the dates that I've heard is October 27th, 2026, right before the midterms. October 27th, 2026, when Trump will potentially do something like this, or we will have conclusive evidence and proof. There's more information coming out from the DOW that is going to lay the foundation for all of this. And like I said, to get people to that precipice level, you can't tell them, you have to show them. And that showing comes about with a foundation of information that begins to delineate towards the ideas that you want to bring people to in the context of conclusions. So I do think that that is going to be something we're going to learn over the course of the next year to 2 years. And I do believe still 2027 to 2028 is a first contact. Why? Because as we move closer and closer to artificial superintelligence, we have this idea that comes from the Star Trek series. And it's called First Contact, or the Prime Directive. Prime Directive is you never interfere with a developing civilization because you do not want them to destroy themselves or other neighboring civilizations. The second one is first contact, that when that civilization advances in technologies for their capabilities to move between the stars, and then you intervene and introduce yourself as another highly advanced civilization. They don't do this because they're welcoming you to the neighborhood. They're doing this because they don't want you to interfere with other developing civilizations, and they want to ensure that you're not a threat to them. Now, understanding that, artificial superintelligence then becomes one of those keystone technologies that is just as powerful and potent as faster than light travel, of which I believe when artificial superintelligence is obtained, which we're in AGI right now, artificial general intelligence, that first contact is going to be initiated. I think it's already been planned. I think it's already in the works. And I think that by 2027 to 2028 is going to be that time frame, but it's going to be after Donald Trump's speech. Holy shit, we actually got through it all. Wow, man. I know, I went on some crazy rants there, didn't I? Man, that was a lot of crazy shit, man. I know it was. All right, guys. We're going to be heading over to DEFCON 0. What I'm going to do is I got to bring up some stuff here. If you just hold on with me for a minute. I only saw one super check. I mean, I didn't see any Rumble rants. I appreciate you guys yesterday for those Rumble rants. Sorry I didn't get to them. I get scatterbrained really, really easy. If you can do me one big favor, though, on Rumble, Facebook, YouTube, is hit that like button. Hit that like button and ensure that you guys are giving us those free thumbs up, because they absolutely definitely help everything that we're doing. And I'm going to go in here, and what we're going to do is I'm going to set up a raid because I have to get a few of those out. DEFCON 0 is coming up in 15 minutes from now. 15 minutes, DEFCON 0. So for everybody over there on Rumble, I am going to raid you on over to Badlands Media. For everybody else, just go on over to Badlands Media on the Rumble channel, and you can find that. I'll throw it out in the link here. There you go. There's the Rumble channel for everybody who's looking for that. But guys, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I will be back with you tomorrow. Tomorrow night, live Q&A tomorrow night. After this show at about 9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Eastern. Got to be a premium subscriber to get into that. But tomorrow night, it is going to be on Wednesday. So pay attention for that information. I'll be talking about it during the show tomorrow. Sorry that I'm talking at 1.5 times speed. We had a lot to get through and very little time to get through it. So much love, respect. God bless. Take care. Have a great night. Don't forget to go on over to redpills.tv and help support everything that we do here. There's ways to support myself and everything that we do. Give.redpills.tv. You also have PayPal that's linked up over there, but redpills.tv, best way to help support everything we do. All of our sponsors are linked up over there as well. Much love, respect. God bless. Take care. Have a great night. And I'll see some of you guys here in a little bit at DEFCON 0. Everybody else, I'll see you tomorrow night.
There was a time when our children stood tall, hand on their hearts, one voice for all. There was a time when honor had weight, when the flag was a symbol, not a debate. There was a time when our history was known, with pride in the rules that made us our own. There was a time, respect for the brave, for those who bled, for the lives they gave. Now the homeland burns to silent war. Truth is twisted, we can't ignore. Voice still calls, we the people will not fall. There was a time, but the time isn't near. The great a time when truth was clear, when the media served, not ruled by fear. There was a time when leaders stood fast, guarding the people, defending the past. Now corruption wears a crown, lies are fed to tear us down. But Q said watch, and Q said see, the silent war will set us free. From the front lines, soldiers stare, wondering if we're still there. Their blood, their hope, their sacrifice will not be sold for a last price. There was a time, but the time isn't near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, the veil undone. Patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on. Or we will spend our sunset years telling our children what it was once like in the United States where men were free.
There was a time, the time is near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, veil undone. Patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light. There was a time, there was a time. Now is the time. Do it.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. The air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation. I want you to get mad.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
The more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
These people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy.
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!"